Your softness is not your weakness, it's your empire. Good evening. I want to start tonight by introducing you to someone whose work is quietly dismantling everything we've been taught about what it takes to succeed. Nishia Dennis is not just building businesses, she is architecting a movement that dares to say that our softness, our refusal to harden in the face of a world that demands we armor up, is not a liability, it is our greatest weapon. Nisha Dennis is redefining leadership for Black women entrepreneurs, proving that tenderness is not fragility, it is power. And tonight, I want to share the insights from our conversation, insights that will challenge everything you thought you knew about strength, success, and survival. Let me ask you something that might sound strange at first. What if the very thing you have been told to abandon in order to succeed, your softness, your vulnerability, your open heart, is actually the key to your greatest breakthrough? What if protecting your pretty heart is not a weakness, but the ultimate entrepreneurial superpower? We live in a world that tells Black women, especially those of us leading businesses, raising families, holding down entire communities, that we must toughen up, armor up, build walls so high that nothing and no one can touch us. The message is clear. If you want to make it, you cannot afford to be soft. You cannot afford to feel too much, trust too easily, or let anyone see you sweat. Success, we are told, requires a hard shell, a thick skin, a heart that has learned to protect itself by shutting down completely. But here's what Nisha Dennis taught me and what the data is starting to confirm. That advice, it is killing us and it is costing us our empires. Let me explain. Black women entrepreneurs are among the most innovative, resilient, and resourceful leaders in the world. In Canada alone, over 80% of Black women entrepreneurs bootstrap their ventures using personal savings because venture capital funding, the lifeblood of scaling businesses, remains almost entirely out of reach, less than 1%. Let that sink in for a moment. Less than 1% of venture capital goes to Black women led startups. And yet, despite these crushing barriers, Black women are launching businesses at record rates. Women owned small and medium enterprises in Canada grew by nearly 18% by 2023. And firms with majority women ownership report innovation rates of 38%. These are not women who are waiting for permission. These are women who are building empires from scratch, often with nothing but their vision, their grit, and their ability to form authentic, trust based networks. And here is the surprising part, the part that flies in the face of everything we have been taught. The ones who scale, the ones who break through the sticky middle, that brutal phase where revenue stalls and growth feels impossible, they are not the ones who hardened their hearts. They are the ones who protected their pretty hearts. Let me tell you about Arlene Dickinson. Arlene is a Black Canadian entrepreneur of Jamaican descent who founded District Ventures in Calgary. She faced the same barriers we all know too well: limited access to venture capital, skepticism from investors who could not see her vision, the exhausting, soul draining work of scaling revenue generating ventures without the networks that open doors for others. She had every reason to build walls, every reason to become hard, transactional, guarded. But Arlene did something counterintuitive. Instead of building walls, she built bridges. She leveraged personal savings. Yes, but more importantly, she built authentic, compassionate partnerships. She maintained vulnerability in rooms that rewarded coldness. She fostered trust in space that celebrated competition. And that softness, that willingness to stay open even when it hurt, accelerated her growth in ways that hustle and hardness never could. District Ventures went on to acquire brands like You Got to Be Kidding and Winset Farms, generating multi-million dollar revenue and pioneering Black women-led scaling in Canada's $90 billion women-owned SME sector. Arlene's story is not an anomaly, it is a blueprint. It is proof that softness scales. Now, let me introduce you to Catherine Lumpkin. Catherine is the founder of the Key Network and the Hidden 10 Framework, a structured support system for African Black women entrepreneurs in Nigeria and across the diaspora. Catherine saw what so many of us have experienced firsthand: systemic barriers that stall growth, even when you have market traction, even when you are doing everything right, even when you are working twice as hard for half the recognition. Only 2 to 3% of venture capital funding goes to women led startups globally. And for Black women, that number drops even further into the margins of invisibility. Catherine could have responded with bitterness. She could have built her network on competition, scarcity, and self protection. She could have hardened her heart and said, "Every woman for herself." Instead, she created a framework rooted in accountability and tenderness. She helped founders set boundaries compassionately, not coldly. She taught them how to grow through pain without letting it poison their vision, their relationships, their sense of self. And the result? Her key holders advanced their ventures to scale. They proved that soft strength, not hard armor, navigates inequity without losing your soul in the process. And then there is Melanie Hogan. Melanie is the force behind Black Women in Food, a community driven brand in Toronto's food sector. Like so many Black women entrepreneurs, Melanie bootstrapped her business amid the harsh reality that over 80% of us rely on personal funding. She faced gossip, judgment, biases that stalled her expansion at every turn. She was talked about, doubted, dismissed. She had every reason to close her heart, to operate from a place of fear and scarcity. But Melanie prioritized peace. She prioritized loyalty. She formed what I call pretty heart networks, relationships built not on transactional gain, but on mutual respect and resource sharing without bitterness or resentment. And she scaled. She generated jobs. She contributed to the nearly 18% rise in women owned SMEs by 2023. She boosted Black women's economic influence in Canada's entrepreneurial landscape, not by hardening her heart, but by protecting it. Do you see the pattern emerging here? These women, Arlene, Catherine, Melanie, they did not succeed despite their softness. They succeeded because of it. They understood something that the business world is only beginning to recognize. A pretty heart is not fragile, it is fierce. It is the heart that has been tested by fire and chose not to turn bitter. It is the heart that has been judged, mislabeled, misunderstood, and still believes in love, still believes in collaboration, still believes in building something bigger than survival. A pretty heart is not soft because it is weak. It is soft because it is strong enough to stay human in a world that profits from your hardness. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. This sounds beautiful, poetic even, but is it practical? Can softness really scale a business? Can vulnerability really compete in a world that rewards ruthlessness, that celebrates the loudest voice and the sharpest elbow? Let me answer that with three insights that Nishia Dennis shared with me. Insights that are as practical as they are profound, as strategic as they are spiritual. First, protect your pretty heart as your core strength. This is not about being naive. This is not about letting people walk all over you or ignoring red flags or staying in toxic situations out of some misguided sense of loyalty. This is about recognizing that your ability to heal from trauma, to release mislabels, to lead with tenderness, even after you have been hurt, is what attracts loyal networks and real opportunities. When you protect your pretty heart, You create space for authentic relationships. And in business, especially for Black women who are systematically excluded from traditional funding and networks, authentic relationships are currency. They open doors that resumes cannot. They create partnerships that contracts cannot guarantee. They build empires that hustle alone never will. Second, embrace shedding seasons for growth. Nishia Dennis taught me that a pretty heart knows how to set boundaries without building walls. It knows how to walk away without becoming cold. It knows how to grow through what it goes through without carrying the weight of bitterness into the next season. This is critical for entrepreneurs. We are often told to network relentlessly, to say yes to every opportunity, to hustle without rest, to grind until we cannot feel our own exhaustion anymore. But a pretty heart understands that not everyone is meant to walk into the next version of you. Shedding what no longer serves you, whether it is a toxic partnership, a limiting belief, or a business model that drains your soul, is not failure. It is clarity. And clarity is what turns personal growth into business scalability. Clarity is what allows you to scale without losing yourself in the process. Third, accountability and softness drive scale. A pretty heart is accountability and tenderness in the same breath. It is light that refuses to dim, love that refuses to harden. This is the secret ingredient that no business school will teach you. When you lead with accountability, you build trust. When you lead with softness, you build loyalty. And trust plus loyalty, that is the foundation of every successful venture that lasts. That is how you overcome systemic inequities like limited venture capital. That is how you turn a bootstrap startup into a multi-million dollar enterprise. That is how you build something that outlives you. These are not abstract concepts floating in the ether. These are strategies. These are the tools that Arlene, Catherine, and Melanie used to scale their businesses against impossible odds. And they are the tools that you can use too, starting today. But here is the hard truth that no one wants to say out loud. Protecting your pretty heart in a world that profits from your hardness is an act of rebellion. It is a daily choice. It is a shedding season that requires you to release what no longer aligns, even when it is painful, even when it is lonely, even when the world tells you that you are too soft, too sensitive, too much, too emotional, too invested, too open. Nishia Dennis reminded me of something powerful that I want to leave with you tonight. A pretty heart is not what life gives you, it is what you protect, it is what you fight for, it is who you choose to be, even when the world wants to make you anything else. So let me ask you this one more time, and I want you to really sit with this question. What if the key to scaling your empire is not in hardening your heart, but in protecting it? What if the relationships you are holding on to out of obligation, out of fear, out of guilt are the very things blocking your breakthrough? What if the softness you have been taught to hide, to apologize for, to diminish is actually your competitive advantage in a world starving for authenticity? Here is what I know to be true, and I need you to hear this. You are not who they said you were. You are not the box they tried to place you in. You are not your past. You are not your mistakes. You are not the stigma attached to your story. You are growth. You are accountability. You are peace. You are light. You are love. You are loyalty. You are worthy. You are more than enough. You are the woman who rose without losing her softness, who healed without becoming hardened, who learned without becoming bitter. You are her. And your triumph is not just that you survived what tried to break you, it is that you became someone you deeply respect. So here's my challenge to you tonight, and I want you to take this seriously. This week, audit one relationship or one limiting belief. Just one. Ask yourself, Does this align with who I am becoming? Does this honor my pretty heart? Does this serve the empire I am building? And if the answer is no, release it. Release it with compassion. Release it without bitterness. Release it knowing that shedding what no longer serves you is not loss, it is growth. It is making space for what is meant for you. Because the world does not need another hardened heart. The world needs your softness, your tenderness, your refusal to dim your light just because someone else cannot handle the brightness. The world needs leaders who build empires without losing their humanity. And that leader is you. Protect your pretty heart. Embrace your shedding season. Lead with accountability and tenderness. And watch your business, your life, your legacy bloom beyond what you ever imagined possible. Thank you.